Welcome back to this month's Roundtable, your all-in-one comprehensive view of what's happening across the real estate industry, straight from some of the industry's earliest technology adopters and foremost as experts in technology, marketing, brokerage, capital construction, and cybersecurity. As always, this is a three-part show. Part one, introductions, meet your hosts. Part two, sector focus. What news, what things are impacting the industry today? And part three, what can we do? What can you do to adjust and accelerate your way to outsmarting your competition? I'm Andreas, Senie, founder of CRECollaborative, brokerage owner and commercial director here at KW, as well as a technology growth strategist for both the nonprofit and for-profit sectors. Joining me this month is none other than Rebecca Carlson, founder and CEO, Carlson Integrated, past president at Night Car, and brokerage owner herself. Becca, nice to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
As well as Anna Maria Kowalik, SVP and Director of Business Development at Inland Green Capital, all things green, energy, and easy financing. Anna Maria, nice to have you back with us.
Thanks.
And Darren Hayes as well, joining us, CEO Code Detectors, professor of all things, and my personal savior when I was hacked. Are you in country, Darren? Nice to see you.
I am. Good to see everyone.
And just a fair warning to our audience today, late joining, Saul Klein, Internet Evangelist, Realtor Emeritus, and good friend. Hi, guys. Welcome back. It's September. Oh, my God. Labor Day has passed us by. Summer's over. What's next? Anna Maria, you're on my right for the first time. It's a nice change up here.
Well, and then Saul can take my place because I can only be here for the first half hour, unfortunately, today.
Oh, no, irreplaceable. You're just happen to be on the right in my screens tonight. What's going on in your world? How is the financing world in CPACE?
Well, actually, it's quite picking up. You can tell that people are back from vacations. They're back into the swing of things. A lot less traveling going on. There are a couple of conferences currently in process across the country, which people are attending, and but they're still communicating via email and text from those conferences, which is very heartening to see. So all in all, it looks like it's going to be a positive business fall for us all.
So no concern over the interest rates where they are. CPACE continues to be there, tried and true. And
there are always concerns.
And, we're going to get to those.
But the fact is that, it still remains a much more viable option and a great partner in that capital stack to make the deal pencil out, to make that project happen. And so, and since our friend Chris is not here this evening, who usually handles the construction end, I will say that I've noticed in conversations with potential clients and people in the industry that although a lot of the supply chain issues have improved, but there are still varying availability issues regarding equipment, uncertain schedules for delivery, and so this still continues to be a bit of a drag on any transactions happening.
Absolutely. And speaking of conferences and Chris Abel is at a conference tonight, and I just came from Manhattan yesterday, and many more conferences to come. We are full-blown conference season here in commercial real estate, construction, and the like. So, speaking of getting deals done in the bottom line, Becca, out there pushing deals, marketing, investors, how are things on your side of the fence?
Things are really good and incredibly busy from our standpoint. We have clients that have just closed on acquisitions in Las Vegas, various other places around the country that, for investors who have capital and don't need high leverage, this is still a buying environment, especially as sellers come to understanding of the impact of interest rates on those sales prices. those are pretty critical times. And so we're seeing clients that are actually closing on transactions. The other piece is for us, it's conference season also. So lots of conference prep going into CRETech, where I will see you, Andreas, and
That's
see
right.
where I'm going to see Dan. So I am so excited. 2 weeks in a row, I get to see members of our podcast and talk to other professionals in the industry. It's going to be very exciting this fall.
It's my favorite time of year, more so because of Christmas, but also because of CRETech as we head into it. But yeah, the conference season, as Anna Maria pointed out, deals are getting done. Becca, you're out there looking in Vegas and so forth. A term I've reused and I'll pretend to coin was investors are looking for steals. Sorry, institutions are looking for steals. All the investors are out there making deals. So we've been super busy, which is exciting. That being said, I know the only other busier sector than real estate on the investor level, not the institutional level, must be the cybersecurity level. Darren, welcome back for the first time in 2 months. 2 months, 3 months. It's nice to see you. As far as your side of the pond, assuming you're here, how are things?
Yeah, everything is good. Cybersecurity, yeah, it always keeps us busy because there's just seems to be always an uptick in attacks that are occurring. But with geopolitical events, things have been ramped up, particularly in Asia. So we've seen a lot more cyber attacks by China against certain organizations in Hong Kong and also in Taiwan. So when we hear about military exercises going on in Taiwan, we're also seeing that matched with cyber attacks as well. Why do we care? Well, much of this malware that targets some of these organizations often ends up, in our part of the world as well. So malware ransomware that was developed that was targeted towards certain countries impacts U.S. companies as well.
Absolutely. It's a worldwide problem. Go ahead.
I have a question for Darren. We've heard in the news a lot about an uptick in solar flares. And so have you seen any particular, movement in that area? And how is that affected? And what can you do to work with that?
Well, that's kind of interesting. I have heard that impacting satellite communications, for example, and people making phone calls or getting texts and that kind of thing. One thing that's interesting is this new advancement of 5G, which is being rolled out, and you're seeing that show up on your phone more and more. And so more and more calls are actually being connected through satellite, especially in more rural areas, which is kind of interesting as well. And so that would be impacted by something like solar flares, for example. Yeah, definitely interesting times there.
Well, and we're yet to be in a place where there's funds available to help us upgrade our infrastructure as far as security, unlike CPACE with solar flares, which, more solar, more panels, right? That's the good news. But I think of solar flares very much of an air stewardess on a plane telling me to close my device when I take off because I may crash the plane sending an email. But am I wrong? There is an impact, right, Darren? They are a big deal.
I don't necessarily think that there's an impact, and there are many people who think that cell phones don't really impact pilots, communications or anything like that. When you think about when you're backing out from the terminal and they're forcing everybody to shut down their phones, there's 5,000 people in the terminal who are making phone calls and using the internet, and that's not impacting the pilots or the planes. So I think that there's, it hasn't been discussed enough. I've heard that it doesn't impact communications, but it's not necessarily my realm, within my realm of expertise.
Fair enough, but in your realm is working through cybersecurity, the IT of it. As more and more threats emerge and more people on their cell phones are returning to conferences, out there shaking, reading, doing different things. I mean, cell phones are safe, assumably, right? Calls, phone calls, texts. That is still the safest communication method out there. Although talking in person is the safest in my opinion. Any changes there?
Unless you're exposed to COVID.
Well, that's, those are the masks. Masks are like firewalls. Same thing.
I was just looking at a new device that somebody was talking about where it can be placed near an iPhone and it can basically connect to your Bluetooth very easily, and it looks like you keep getting this message about like iPods trying to connect to your device, and basically it makes your device unusable. And there's lots of different devices out there. There's one device, for example, which is a USB device, and you plug it into somebody's computer and it basically burns the whole motherboard up in the person's device. So there's lots of destructive devices that you have to be careful about. So physical security is really, really important. And then there's one of the latest attacks that a lot of people have to think about when you hang up your keys near your door of your home. People are able to use a device to basically connect with your key fob and create their own key fob to unlock your car and get into your car. So, people are being told now to consider using some kind of something to cover your fob.
Faraday bag?
Oh, you've got one. Okay, yes, yeah. There you go. There you go. Keep RFID signals away from your key fob and that kind of thing. So think about where you place that in your home, that it's not near a window or not where somebody can connect with it outside your home.
Well, and we're headed into conference season. We're in conference season. Based on the RFID tags and otherwise, what are some tips you're going to give people heading out, right? I know a few years ago we discussed how they had these charging stations that were designed to, you would plug in and it would actually steal all your data, right? So you should never plug into someone else's charging station. Is this still a risk for people at conferences? What should people be aware of? And I'm taking advantage of Darren being here. Hasn't been here in 2 months. Forgive me.
No, absolutely. And also just be very careful with QR codes. We're so used to scanning these QR codes. It's very easy for somebody to mimic a QR code, put a sticker with their own QR code over something that looks legitimate, and redirect you to a website with malware and install malware on your device. So think twice about those QR codes, because they are very easy to mimic and fool and get you to download malware onto your computer or your phone.
So don't order from the QR code at Chili's. I've got that. Yeah. These new menu devices, yeah. And I bought this, and I haven't used it yet, but we'll see. This Faraday bag for hiding my signal, what have you. And I have heard quite a few reports of cars being stolen, range extenders, as I understand it, where the key is still at your bedside and they just take the car and go. It's, as you said, it's personal security, right? You want to make sure everything's locked, your keys are away. That's really the biggest threat, and always has been the biggest threat when we discuss cybersecurity that most people forget. They think it just happens out in the world and there's nothing they can do, but really it comes down to accessibility of your devices, of your office. So at these conferences, really it's awareness, situational awareness, it sounds like it's the best way forward.
I have another tip on that, actually. And I was rooming with a friend at ICSC, and she and I always roomed together, and she was opening the safe and she stuck her laptop in, and I was confused. And then she said, "My entire business life is on my laptop. It is the most important thing I'm bringing to this conference. I'm leaving the hotel room for the evening. That is where it goes every time." And I thought that was brilliant. So that is my new plan, is that's why there's a safe in the room, is to put valuables in it. Why in the world would I not think my laptop is valuable?
Absolutely. I put USBs in there if I have them, and things like that as well. So yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something that you should do. But don't just think about thieves as well. Think about what we view as being legitimate companies as well. I don't know whether anybody read that Mozilla Foundation report that was talking about cars and all the data that they collect about you. And they were talking about, being able, Nissan, for example, and Kia, I believe it was, who were talking about how they could determine how often you have sex and your sexual orientation and things like that, based on data that they're pulling from your phone when you connect to that infotainment system. So be careful about the privileges or your connections to those devices. We can all, there's also those rental cars, and people often will connect their device to those rental cars, and you got to be careful about that information being shared, because the next person could pull your information down from that infotainment device too.
Very interesting. Thanks for that. And I had a question as well in regard to, so I have what I call a green card. And so rather than using paper business cards, when I go to events, I have the card that, can connect with anyone immediately on their phone. You tap and go. I don't know. What do you think about the
How safe
security
is that?
of those?
Yeah.
How safe? Yeah, because really, unless the company itself is compromised, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think with well, first of all, credit card companies over here are kind of behind the times in terms of other countries. First of all, in many other countries, it's chip and PIN.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a PIN number with your credit card, but they don't do that over here. And I don't know why, because it would be an extra layer of security. I think the things that you need to think about are skimmers that are installed like on those point of sale terminals at supermarkets, at gas stations, even card not present, where somebody doesn't have your credit card but has your credit card details. That kind of fraud is very, very big. I would say that just regular monitoring of your credit report, take advantage of you being able to access your credit report for free, and think about putting all your credit cards in your phone, because your phone probably is the safest way of making a credit card transaction. That's what I would say.
So I think what Anna Maria was asking about, and I know this only because my KW family here residentially, nobody hands out business cards. They do, however, have a little sticky on their phone, and they want to bump phones with me to transfer contact.
Oh, okay.
And so I look at it and I go, well, that's like a QR code. I have no idea what you are transferring to me by contact. And I go, no, I'm good. Thank you. I practice state phone usage. This is not okay. Just tell me your number and I'll put it in here. And there's this whole world of QR codes and short links. So Anna Maria and Darren, we're at a conferences. We see a QR code. Maybe don't scan it, is what you said. But what about those people who just don't want to hand us a card? They say, no, let's connect via device. Let's scan.
And so mine is not a connection via device, but it does have a QR code on the back. If for some reason the tap doesn't work, but I can just tap someone's phone and it automatically opens up my contact information on their phone.
Oh, okay. Quite honestly, I haven't looked at that particular application that facilitates that, but it does sound, I'd be a little bit skeptical. I think like Andreas as well about, bumping phones or QR codes or that kind of thing. I would prefer the old-fashioned paper card or something like that.
I'm thinking that Anna Maria can go to conferences and literally just walk with her card and tap everybody's phone as she walks by their table, and everybody will have her information. This is very handy.
I've done this for years, and I just dropped the card very fast. Saul,
hey, business development needs to go quickly.
Jonathan Stein is turning over right now. He's like, "What do you mean bump phones? Come on, let's work through it." It's a brave new world, but I've speaking to a few people, and all of them said there's really nothing new in real estate except for the concerns about security and how we do business. Nothing new. The methodologies are the same. And who better, Saul? Nice to see you sneaking in here. Late,
good to be here,
but on time as always. Thank you for joining. Before you had cards, are you blinking? The app I believe is called Blink. At least that's the one we use for digital tapping of phones.
Well, there are different apps.
Quite a few.
There are different
And-
ones. I have a different one, and I'm not going to be advertising any particular, but there we go.
We've seen it all. I still believe that business cards are the best way to move forward, especially if the person you meet has a business card you can write on. So I write a little note and then I know what to do afterwards. I feel like if something goes into my phone, more than likely it would get lost. That's my fear from using that type of service personally. But I'm not the marketing guru on the call. Becca, I mean, you're out there connecting people, pushing product and marketing digitally in the mail. What do you think?
We're seeing all applications. So I have clients that use a digital card like Anna Maria does. I have other clients that are adding QR codes. Actually, we added a QR code to our website on my card in a circle. So it looks like a graphic element, but if somebody wanted to use it as a QR code, they could. But I do write on business cards myself. So I've been a slow adopter for the card technology, but whenever it comes out, everybody wants to see it. Everybody's fascinated by it. I've been to 2 or 3 conferences with one of my clients that has it, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's amazing. It's so cool." So there's
It's
a
a talking
novelty.
piece.
It is totally a talking piece. There's a huge novelty to it.
I just remember the easier it is to use, the more likely it is to be misused. I'm old fashioned. I'm a traditionalist. I like my business card. I have a hidden Rolodex here in the drawer, right? I just have to look like a techie. So it works very well.
Well, also think about not giving your real phone number away. And what I mean by that is maybe using a Google Voice number, and then only people that you really trust giving them your actual phone number. And then the other thing is maybe have people contact you through LinkedIn, because then they don't have your phone number. Your phone number is like your social security number on the internet. So think of it that way. And so if people are contacting you through LinkedIn, and if there's ever a problem, you can disconnect from them, or you can have LinkedIn stop that communication. So it's, you got to think about, that's a real important identifier for somebody trying to profile you and get information about you.
But actually, if you know how to add it to your profile, there is phone number availability as well as email direct.
Okay.
So,
yep.
So,
I'm a big fan of Google Voice. I've used it for years, especially because I can disable it from reaching me after business hours, which is something I love about commercial. And then those of you that know me, you have the personal cell, which is great too. And that just, is on silent after business hours. So it works well.
So this is a good transition point. I'll say goodbye to all my fans, and just wanting to, wish this group a good month ahead. And you can introduce Saul instead of me. And I leave you with the thought that the future is always green. So until next time, everyone, take
Make
care.
it more green with
Take
green.
There you
later.
go. Bye-bye now.
Oh boy. Well, with that, I guess, Saul, no introduction needed. Second one today. How are things on your side of the fence? Let's backpedal to the first part of the show. What's new in your world?
Things are good. I came in listening to Darren talk about cars and sexual harassment or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, litigation and God knows what else out there, which
And it reminded me of and you probably heard the story of, I think it was Target, that they gather enough data on you when you buy things that they had profiled pregnant women in their second trimester or something. They know that they buy all these different products. So they knew Target, whatever the merchandiser was, before the young girl's father knew that she was pregnant, and started sending her advertisements and coupons on the things that you would buy if you were pregnant, and the father got them. And so we give our data away all the time. We don't even think about it, right? You go to the grocery store and they know, you put in your phone number, you get a discount, but they know what you bought, when you bought it, where you live, what day of the week you shop. I mean, we've been shopping at the same grocery store for 40 years. So they know like all of our habits. They probably order the eggs just in time for us to go buy them, right? I mean, it's like, so we give away this stuff all the time. I got caught on one of those slide the card in at a gas station by my house, and it steals the data from the card. And I thought,
skimmer, I believe.
awful hard to get this card in, but I got it in, and I bought the gasoline, and then I started noticing all these charges. So the security is a big deal. And Darren, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
He's back. So the threats are out there, but they've always been out there. We're out there doing business. We're walking. We're talking. We're making adjustments. I'm going to share my link for this my Blink app. See how many of you connect to it for our cards. I'm sorry you got skimmed. Is that right? Skimmed.
Yeah, skimmed. It was like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah. Well,
I don't go to that gas station anymore.
Right. Well, or you pay cash at the pump. Hopefully.
Well, but I like the points that I get, right? Because I can convert that into cash.
Well, with all this intelligence out there, you'd think they would be better at predicting. They are better at predicting good investments, luckily. So, I mean, real estate wise, we're out there moving, taking advantage, but we're still a very opaque sector compared to financial services and otherwise. And, again, Darren, you're here, so I'm going to hound on you. Then you've got AI that have come in the room, right? Artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and all these things. Personal security, laptops in hotel rooms. What are we to do, right? I love what a good friend of mine said. He said, AI is just your intern. If you can treat your AI like an intern, then you're okay. Assume it will make mistakes, assuming that you have to teach it, and assume you have to know what you're talking about. You can move forward from there, right? But it is not the answer. It's not the solution. Technology is not replacing any of these things, like networking, like conferencing, like checking your credit to make sure that you haven't been a victim of fraud. There just isn't that common sense in place. Where are your thoughts as a group? I mean, what are you saying? Are you worried about AI? Are you gung-ho for AI? On the marketing side, I'm assuming, Becca, you're using AI. Saul, on the MLS side, are they thinking about this? And then Darren, how do we protect ourselves?
I love it. I love it. And I'm not worried about the downside of it because I think we'll be able to overcome that. I think the benefits far exceed what people are looking at with regard to losing control. So I'm not somebody that's afraid of new technologies. I never have been, and I never will be. And a lot of people like to make hay and are naysayers about it, but I just won't buy into that argument. I like the good things that it does. Yes, in the MLS world, we can look at images and populate fields in the MLS from the images. They can populate from the images the type of refrigerator, link to the operating manual of that type of refrigerator. They can take dimensions. They can you can use AI to check compliance for fair housing violations. And so there are many applications of AI in the multiple listing service world, which, by the way, that's where I was. That's why I'm sorry I'm late, because I had a board of directors meeting. I'm back into this volunteer participate at the board of realtors thing. I'm president of the San Diego MLS, and so I'm doing those things again. But it's kind of fun for me because you get to see everybody wants to talk to you, and they want to sell you their latest technology, right?
Yep.
So it's great. So I'm not afraid of it. I like the idea. I know it's going to go fast and it's going to progress fast, but I'm loving it. I saw this thing on Janie and I watched 24, this television series, and we thought it was great. We watched the whole thing, all 204 episodes, hour episodes, and it's amazing what they were doing with flip phones. Right.
They also had the thumbprint reader in the car and a bunch of other things.
Cut your finger off, use it to get. Yeah, they had all that kind of stuff. So no, the AI doesn't faze me after watching something like that.
Well, that was supposed to be, the future. That those who've seen it. I mean, I don't know, Darren. This is all your world now. Flip phones to thumbprint scanners and AI. The risks are all puff and huff, or are we in a good place?
I agree with Saul to a certain extent. I am excited about it. It's going to save us a lot of time. It's going to be able to make us more productive. But from a cybersecurity perspective, what you have to be careful of is that years ago we had hackers who were tech savvy or trying out new technologies and were pretty good at what they did. Then, you had this evolution of malware as a service, where people would be able to sell malware that they had developed, and you could go and use that by yourself, and you wouldn't need anybody to really deploy it for you. And now with AI, you can just create a lot of these things yourself without even using a middleman anymore. And so I think that, one of the biggest challenges in the world of cybersecurity is social engineering, being able to, mimic somebody's character, for example, and pretend you're a friend of somebody. And AI makes that possible. You need, I think, 6 seconds of somebody's voice to create, a whole conversation that sounds exactly like that person. Creating your own video content using AI and mimicking somebody in a very realistic way is now possible. And so the social engineering is going to really take off in terms of cybersecurity attacks. And so if we don't think about checking identities and checking who's behind that line, we're so used to, not picking up the phone and speaking to people. If we don't start thinking about that from a security perspective, we're going to be in a world of trouble, because I think communications are going to become, we have to be a lot more apprehensive and think about how do we test and how do we verify that this person is legitimate. We've seen AI being able to, create essays and write programs, and people can pretend to be have many different personas, right? And successfully get accepted for a job. So, it's going to mean that when we interview people, we're going to have to verify in person that they can actually do what they say they can do. So they're kind of some of my concerns, is that in a digital world with digital communications, verifying that other person that you're communicating with is going to be a lot more challenging.
Darren, that's always been an issue on the internet. Remember that old cartoon with the dog sitting at the computer and the cat sitting next to him, and the dog says to the cat, the great thing about the internet is they don't know you're a dog.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that a lot of this technology has been perfected because we were able to see, spelling mistakes in an email, or we were able to see, this doesn't sound like my friend, or this doesn't sound like somebody else. But AI seems to have perfected all of that, so that it's going to be a lot harder to discern, who's legitimate, what somebody's writing, is that legitimate, and it's from writing like an investigative report. Maybe I could have some AI chatbot, chat GPT, do that for me now, and would that look as legitimate? It would be interesting to see. So
have you noticed a lot of the stuff that I read, it actually is generated by AI? I mean, like news articles, right? So it's already, you're seeing that. A lot of the stuff you read, and you can kind of tell, and then often they disclose it at the end, right?
But conversely, the actual humans who are talking on these news stations are lying a lot of the times as well.
See, that's a whole nother thing. Not to get political, but we've had social engineering for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, social engineering, the other day, social engineering aside, ChatGPT, the bane of my existence today, because everyone's behind the screen and they're all on ChatGPT. I kid you not, I had someone try to negotiate with me through ChatGPT, because I pulled it up on Bing AI and I said, negotiate this term with these parameters. And I swear to God, it sounded just like what she was emailing me by text. I went, he, doesn't matter. I went, oh my God, you're not actually negotiating. You're telling your ChatGPT, you're asking the question, how do I negotiate from here? And it's too much word flourish, and it sounded too good. And I went, you don't know how to negotiate. You're just asking it. That's terrible in my mind, because you have to know the mechanics of something to do it well. And you have to know the mechanics to understand when it's going awry. And that's my biggest concern with AI, is that if you can't investigate and understand the why and understand the top level, where are you left? I do agree that AI will help in many ways. But again, back to that intern level. Still need to teach it. So I don't know. I mean, AI and marketing, Becca, your side of the fence. Create a presentation. Go ahead. Tell
I have
me.
I have a client who's had me run a couple of test articles, test narratives. So we've been doing a little bit of playing inside, and I like to use Google Bard, which is their variation. I figure nobody invests more than Google, so they're going to own it all anyway at some point. So I might as well start with their product. It has been fascinating, and I consistently tell my team, trust but verify, which we always talk about on this show, right? Trust the answers that you get, but verify. That's our role as humans. That's our role in reviewing things. So the most interesting one to date was last week. And I did the question of why invest in retail real estate right now. And I couched it with first, I did the first one, why invest in retail real estate? And it gave me this pat answer. And then I said, right now in 2023. And it gave me the same answer. The problem is that the first bullet point was everybody should invest because of historically low interest rates. Well, that is not new news. That is old news. It is not. While they are still could be construed as low interest rates if you're looking on a very long spectrum and continuum, and some of my friends who have been in the industry for a long time talk about buying their houses at 15% interest rates. Nobody's looking at 8% rates as like amazing historically low interest rates. So that is not a convincing argument for today, because it's gathering. And I tell my team this again, because we're writing content, because we're reviewing content on a regular basis, is we have to take it into context that AI is gathering what all sources are saying over an expanded period of time. It's not finite. They're not really looking at the news from today. And this is obviously in a writing context, which is such a small niche of what actual AI incorporates, right? Like AI touches so many more things. And the use case that Saul has is so different than asking AI, why should you invest in retail real estate? And seeing if it knows the fundamentals that are already in my head is why I invest in retail real estate. It's a very different case study and a use case for AI. So I see benefits, and huge benefits, in what Saul's talking about, of being able to marry factual data and factual information about a refrigerator and include it all there, so that all of the information is linked to it. It almost reminds me of like how blockchain hypothetically was supposed to work. Blockchain was going to change everything, and everything was going to be intrinsically tied to a data point, right? Well, the refrigerator is that piece, and then all of those all the information about that refrigerator in that photo becomes all of that information that's intrinsically tied to it. So different use cases for different forms of AI have different benefits, and they all have benefits and detractions. The reality is that it's still fun for me to play in it, and so I'm still going to do it, and hopefully I can teach it better how to navigate the question. But I don't know any better way to clarify my question than today. Like, here we are, September 5th, 2023. What exactly makes, what is the market showing that are the fundamentals of why it's great to invest in retail real estate, which, by the way, is my favorite product type. And I would love to be investing in retail real estate right now. So I'm already sold.
Retail is on its way to having its moment at this point, which is exciting.
It's their cycles.
Yeah.
Every product has a cycle.
But I do like what you pointed out. So as an identification tool, pulling from an image, what is in the image, that object. But are we to assume that programming bias has disappeared? How do we know that it isn't garbage in, garbage out, which is the age-old problem of, not to harp on MLSs or any other source, fill from tax record. If I can't review the record I'm filling from in full, how do I know that's the right record to pull from? Part of what we do as brokers, advisors, consultants across the board is ask questions and look under the hood and say, to Becca's point, and trust but verify, where did this come from? What's the source? How do we know it's correct? And I'm not asking this of, go ahead.
But are you assuming, Andreas, that if you ask a human being, they always know the truth?
I assume they're always wrong, and I should check anyways. But I like to hear the answer. But from a technology standpoint, we want to assume that the technology is correct, right? So, Darren,
I use another way. I use it's a research tool, right? So it's a way to search. If I do a Google search, I got to sift through the ads. I got to figure out what's an ad. What if I go to ChatGPT or Bard, then it goes and gathers stuff, and I can further research from there. So I look at it. One of the uses for me is research. I write something every day called the language of real estate, and I publish a new word every day, and I pull the word from John Riley's book, The Language of Real Estate. But now I go into ChatGPT and I put the word in there, and I find other extended definitions. Now, I've been a real estate broker for 47 years, so I know the answer to how to define these words. And so I find things I never thought of that, yep, there's another thing that helps explain this word. So using it in addition to other things, again, as a research tool, has got a value.
I would almost go ahead. Yeah, I'll go.
No, I was going to say, I agree. I've heard a lot of people who talk about, a project that they expected to take 4 hours took 15 minutes because they had done searches on AI and used AI to help them with the project. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. And, one of the other benefits as well is I know people are using these avatars now, and it's being used to help people with PTSD or social anxiety or other uses. So yeah, I think that the benefits definitely outweigh any kind of destructive behavior associated with AI. But just from a cybersecurity perspective, I find it I'm a little apprehensive about trust, and I think we got to just think a little bit more about how we trust things. But having said that, I was at a recent talk about Bernie Madoff, who was a guy who wrote this book about the Ponzi scheme and Bernie Madoff and what he did, and this was pre AI, but everything was created on the fly, and so when the SEC examiner would come in or an auditor, and they were asking about particular statements for clients, they person would leave the room, they'd go downstairs, and they would just create a statement on the fly for a particular entity or a particular person, and they print it out and put it in the fridge for a few seconds to cool it down, and then bring it to the auditor. So scams have always been around. They will always be around with AI. We've just got to think about how we fend off this kind of fraud in the future involving AI.
So an overall awareness of fraud and checking and trusting, which has always been there for those willing to look, those looking to seek out and trust but verify. What I was going to say on the creative side is less of a research tool. I think 90% accuracy, I can tell you how many brokers locally are using ChatGPT or otherwise to write the description for the city a property is located in. So I'm a huge fan of creativity. I was terrible at writing outlines for essays. It's a fact. So for that, as a basis, as a foundation, I think it's great. I just feel that more and more, I'm long-winded at best, and ChatGPT is worse. So what do we do when we don't know to check or to understand or see a problem? Identifying images is one thing. That's a process. We can shrink a process, and it's of tremendous value. I would love to analyze that picture and understand the age of the roof and the windows and the type of window and the cost. That's incredible when we talk about valuations and deferred maintenance. But the rest of it is an unknown to me. I'm not on the bandwagon yet. There's a lot of very great tech. Don't let me say there isn't. CRETech, come see some of the great tech with us. But it is a very fast-moving shuttle at this point, and a lot of unknowns for it. In the MLS. When are the rest of us going to have that level of AI in our MLS? Saul, do you have any line of sight on that?
Well,
hold on a sec, because I don't have that.
I'm just in this position where the vendors are showing me this, right? So I'm seeing, again, so kind of interesting. So Black Knight was the deal closed where Black Knight which is a big company, was purchased by ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, which is the company that owns the New York Stock Exchange, and they're going to start doing right. They've been working on this project for 10 years. They're going to streamline the mortgage process, digitize the mortgage process, and a lot more, and eliminate a lot of people that are in the middle, the sales piece of bringing loans, that because the loan is a manufactured product. So in dealing with Black Knight, in dealing with the MLS vendor product they have, which is Paragon, I've been introduced to some of the partners of Black Knight and Paragon. They partner because they integrate better with their systems. And we don't necessarily have all of these partners yet, but I'm getting an opportunity to see them. And as I see them, the AI thing was fascinating to me, with compliance, fair housing compliance, populating fields, looking at deferred maintenance, all this from an image that you could never do, or take you a long time to do manually, but AI makes a difference, right? So
Absolutely.
so it's great to look at them, but your MLS should have it just as soon as mine does. Right?
Yeah. Well, San Diego's forward thinking. They're there before. California's before us in most things, I think. Maybe not. But given that we went this AI route on this month's round table, let's do this. We're coming up. It's top of the hour, 13 minutes to the top of the hour. What is the one AI tool you are using that someone else should be using because it has made you smarter and better? Why? For the next month. Let's put it right nail on its head. I believe for me, Bing.ai has been great in my understanding of what limitations there are. But what are each of you using on your own desks?
Well, it's redundant, but I use ChatGPT. I prefer it to Bard. I use Bard as well, but I find that ChatGPT is a little faster than Bard is.
Really?
And at least the stuff I put in there. And then I also determined that the better you are at asking the question, the better the answer is going to be. And so, like Becca, you said, you ask it and then you close the parameters, and then you get a more definitive answer. And then sometimes I just ask, is there anything else? And then more stuff comes. Sometimes I say in 100 words. Right. So there are all kinds of ways to manipulate the outcome. And the way you get better at it is just doing it, playing with it. But I would say for me, ChatGPT is probably the AI that I knowingly use the most.
That's well put. Knowingly, you're practically red teaming, which I'm sure Darren can expand on in a moment as you adjust those queries to get what you need. What is your most used query in ChatGPT? Let me go that route. What qualifier? What else? That's the end. That's how you end your search for ChatGPT. Saul, did I lose you?
Maybe it's frozen.
ChatGPT didn't like what I was asking. You see what just happened?
Was that really Saul there?
Wow, what's that really Saul? So Darren, go ahead. You're up.
Well, quite honestly, I've been working on a pretty big project over the summer, and I haven't had enough time to really spend looking at artificial intelligence. One thing I would say is there are some tools that I've used for creating personas, for what are called sock puppets that you use to test social engineering and that kind of thing. So you create a persona of somebody and you see if somebody can be fooled by that persona. And one of the tools I really like is this person does not exist, and it creates these photos on the fly of people who don't exist, but they look very, very realistic, and it's a great tool to use to create a persona picture of somebody. But then there's other tools that you can use to fill in the gaps about where this person might live, who they are, and that kind of thing, to use in a social engineering attack.
Is there an AI to check if something is being manufactured digitally, if it's fake? Is there a tool for that yet?
There are some tests that you can do to see if a picture has been generated. I know that Facebook, for example, will look at metadata in that photo, which is called EXIF data. And so what I'll do is I will take a screenshot of that picture. So now it has my phone's metadata, and now you can kind of fool Facebook, for example, when uploading that picture to a fake Facebook profile, for example.
Oh boy. Well, all right. So back on your side in the marketing world, are you out there creating? Have you replaced your Illustrator with an AI tool yet? Only because I saw that on Instagram. There was a video. Go ahead.
It's funny. We have not at all considered that. And the last demonstration I had was maybe 3 weeks ago of somebody showing how there's still some challenges if you have AI make an image, and they showed a person like standing on a hill, and of course he had 6 fingers or 7 fingers because AI struggles with fingers for some reason. Like extremities seem to have a problem creating. So we're utilizing AI in there's an AI tool in Elementor, which is the website development tool that we use. I've tried it a couple times to rewrite paragraphs and decided that I'm a better writer than it so far. I might be cocky, but I just think I am. And then we have AI in one of our social media planning tools where we might check something. We've discovered that, we write social media that has consistent messaging, and sometimes saying the same thing over and over again, month after month, to drill down that client's narrative can get challenging, and rewording and literally wordsmithing the same concept over and over again. So several of my team members are utilizing AI, whether that's ChatGPT, Google Bard, or the one within the posting tool. That being said, we still do our own thorough review of double checking, triple checking, because AI doesn't always get it. It just doesn't always get it right, which we expect, and so it just becomes part of our process. But it really does aid us in that piece of reframing ever so slightly a narrative that we're having to say the same thing over and over and over again. We don't want people to get extraordinarily bored with it.
Have you guys seen the movie Simone? With Al Pacino. I think it's from 2002. And he creates an artificial intelligence movie star that dominates and becomes the most famous star in the world. And then he can't figure out how to get rid of her. And then he finally figures out how to get rid of her. And then they put him on trial for murder. So it's a fascinating story, and it's 2002, and it's Al Pacino. It's pretty entertaining. I watched it on an airplane years ago, but it was like, precursor to all of this artificial intelligence, and it was, created this character that was so real that she was like the dominant movie star in the world, and she wasn't real. Simone.
We're putting it in the show notes. Absolutely, Simone for the show notes. I dare say to ask about what book to read, but now we've got enough here for our audience. Speaking of our audience, CRETech's around the corner. If you haven't purchased a ticket, please take advantage of our discount. The show wouldn't be what it is today without our audience. CRETech wouldn't be what it is today without all of the attendees. Now over 2,000 people at the Javits Center in New York. Use our exclusive code. Join us. Becca will be there. I will be there. The industry's elite and latest pioneers, only because Saul's not going to be there, but you should be there. We'll be there, as well as all the VCs and so forth. It's truly a great event. Hope to see you there. Or at C5. And what's the other one? Saul, you're at one, and Becca, you're at one. Becca's at C5 with CCIM. Saul, you're at the NAR one. You just came from a show. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'll be at the California. I'm not speaking, but I'll be there. I'm going to the California Association of Realtors show in Anaheim, the NAR program in Anaheim. I'm going to the RESO conference, Real Estate Standards Organization in New Orleans. And there's one last one I'm going to. I can't remember it right now. I'm supposed to go to Paris in early December to speak at an event that's an international MLS event. And gosh, that's a long way to go to speak, and I'm like, Paris. People say, well, you need to go to Paris. Yeah, but it's Paris in December.
I've only been once, and that being said, I'm sure Darren might meet you there. He's over the pond more than not. Darren, any big shows headed for this season and the year for you?
Yeah, a couple of conferences. One conference is actually going to be in the French Quarter in New Orleans. So it's a conference on open source intelligence, which is a really big thing today. I mean, you can get anything. You could be your own investigator today. You can get satellite imagery just like the government uses. You know, there's tools out there. There's, you know, it's become a big thing. If you look at what's happening in Ukraine, people identifying where Russian soldiers are held up in particular buildings in particular towns, and so it's a big thing what type of equipment Wagner group is using and what kind of artillery they have. And so open source intelligence is a really big thing. I'm going to be talking about open source intelligence for counter-proliferation investigations, the illegal export of goods and technologies to sanctioned countries and regimes, and how you can use that technology to find these people.
Wow, that was a mouthful, and I want to have another sector interview to talk about that and many other things. And once again, Darren, I want to thank you for When I Was Hacked and all you did for me. And on those lines, Becca, based on what you said about putting your computer in the safe, I want to remind our listeners that the best thing you can do as far as computers and devices is have multiple backups. Darren, I believe it's the 3-2-1 system, and for those that don't know, it's all about multiple copies. That's how I look at it. The cloud is not the cloud. It's not everything. You need more than that. And not just this funny bag, which I bought on a whim, candidly.
Air tags are also a good idea. So they'll rip out your tracking system out of your car when they steal your car. But I had an air tag in there too.
Well, now you bring that up. So telematics in cars 2016 or newer, they're all tracked everywhere. We're tracked everywhere. So they rip those out? No kidding.
Yeah, unfortunately, you'll see, a lot of Mercedes and BMWs and high-end cars being exported to countries, for example, like Angola, Western Africa, as second-hand cars and loaded onto containers and at a Port Elizabeth in New Jersey, for example. But it's, even with the latest technology and tracking devices, it's still happening that these cars are being shipped abroad en masse. Yeah.
Criminals will continue to do what criminals do, and professionals will continue to network and trusting, but verifying. And the best place to do that is at these big events and growing from there. All right, guys, we're here at the top of the hour. Thank you for being such incredible hosts. The show continues to grow and expand. It's a global show, 2,000 plus downloads monthly, views, likes. Love it. Anyone tuning in, please join us next month or anywhere you get your audio and video. Apple, Alexa, Google, Pandora, or simply ask your device to tune into the CRECo.ai Roundtable. You can find our hosts on each of their social media handles, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, Elon Musk's new platform. And we'll see you next month, same time, first Thursday of the month, 6 p.m. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great
for tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable, powered by CRECo.ai, your source for the latest in real estate and technology. For past episodes, sector interviews, and more great content, follow us on all social media and YouTube at CRECollaborative. You can also find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please like, subscribe, and share. It really does help. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next Real Estate Roundtable.